friends, today we're going to learn about the least common multiple. So first of all, let's think about what these words mean. Least means lowest, common means something that is shared, and multiple, this is a good word to pay attention to. Multiple sounds like multiplication, which is exactly what we're going to do to find our answer. So when we find the least common multiple, there's two methods. The list method and the cake method. I'm actually going to start by showing you the cake method first and then move on to the list method. So let's look at this problem. Find the least common multiple of 24 and 40. Well, I'm going to set up this problem the same way that I would using the cake method with greatest common factor or prime factorization by setting up a layer. And I'm going to ask myself the same question. What can I divide away from both these numbers, 24 and 40? Well, let's say you're stuck. You know you can always divide by 2 if they're both even. So let's pull out a 2. 24 divided by 2 is 12. 40 divided by 2 is 20. All right, let's make another layer. Well, I could do 2 again. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 20 divided by 2 is 10. And I could go one more time by dividing away a 2 from both values, and I'd end with 3 and 5. Now, here's what's cool about the cake method. Normally, I would only circle these 3 values to find my GCF. But with the cake method, I'm going to make an L for least common multiple. So I'm going to circle all of the factors on the left and all of the factors that remain on the bottom. And I'm going to multiply them together. So I'm just putting dots between them to remind myself that I multiply. So I'm going to do 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. And because I'm multiplying, I could do this in any order. So I see right away that 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 to the third power, which is the same as 8. 3 times 5 is 15. So if I just bring this down, I really need to do 8 times 15. Let's fix that. 15. So let's solve for that. What is 15 times 8? Well, 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus the 4 is 12. So my least common multiple of 24 and 40 is 120. That is my answer. And notice one more thing. My answer, 120, is almost always going to be larger than my starting numbers. Because remember, multiple means multiply, which means it's getting larger, it's getting bigger. So now let's look at our second example. For this example, we're going to use the list method, where we list all of the multiples of these values. So I like to organize by making 2 rows. And notice that these numbers are pretty small, 3 and 8. So the list method is really good when you have small numbers. So we're going to list multiples of 3. 3 times 1 is 3, times 2 is 6, times 3 is 9, etc. So 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. And we could keep going if we needed to. Now let's look at 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 5 is 40. And we could keep going if we needed to. But I noticed something. Because I'm trying to find what's in common, that's what the C stands for, I can stop right now. So I see that 24 is listed in the bottom and 24 is listed in the top. So by using the list method, I'm able to determine that my least common multiple is 24. So oftentimes these two concepts, greatest common factor and least common multiple, go together. And sometimes you will see a problem like this, where it says find the GCF and the LCM of this set of numbers. So we're focusing on 56 and 40. In this case, it is best to use the cake method because you actually find two things at the same time. Let's do it. So if I have 56 and 40, I'm going to draw my first layer of cake. What could I divide away from both? Well, let's start with 2. All right, half of 40 is 20. Half of 56 is 28. Okay, now let's do my next layer. So I could take out a 2 again. Half of 20 is 10. Half of 28 is 14. And I can keep going. 2 again. We get to 7 and 5. Okay, and here we have to stop. So let's circle up the L, everything on the left and everything on the bottom. So if I'm trying to find my least common multiple, I would do 2 times 2 times 2 times 7 times 5. So let's take a second to figure that out. 7 times 5 gives me 35. And again, 2 cubed, I know that that is 8. So I need to figure out 35 times 8. Let's do that off to the side. 35 times 8. 8 times 5 is 40. And 8 times 3 is 24, plus the 4 is 28. So my least common multiple is 280. Awesome. But we also need to find the greatest common factor. Well, here's the thing I love about this method. We already have. By circling up the numbers that we divided out on the left-hand side, these prime factors or smaller factors will give us our greatest common factor. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So our greatest common factor is 8. So this method is awesome because it does double duty. You can find the GCF and the LCM just depending on what you multiply. So if I multiply all of these factors on the left-hand side, I'll get my GCF. If I additionally multiply the bottom 2 factors, whatever they may be, I will find my LCM. So this cake method is awesome.